Hello and welcome to Temple of Akasha, the home of embodied spirituality with me, Natasha. Today I'm going to share with you 5 things that you can do right now to start shifting your experience of your reality. These are things that you can begin to apply in this very moment. They don't require you to go out and make a purchase. They don't require you to go and do anything in your external world, and that's really critical here. The energetic underpins the material. This is a vibrational reality primarily, collapsing into matter and appearing solid, okay? So manipulating, coercing, trying to change your 3D experience and to have long-lasting results is fruitless, because if you haven't addressed the energetic imbalance or the energetic root, you're going to continue to create and experience the same experiences over and over and over again, even if you change your physical reality. For example, if you're in a relationship where the person you're with triggers you, whether it's a partner or a friend or a family member, and you think the way in which to deal with that is to just shut that person out of your life, and you expect that those issues will go away. I'm not suggesting that you don't set boundaries. You also have to take care of yourself. But unless you deal with the reason why you're getting so heavily triggered, you are going to continue to attract the same experiences in other relationships because you haven't dealt with the energetic charge beneath those interactions, right? This is preventative soul medicine that I'm sharing with you today. We don't work in reactive ways here. I'm encouraging you to take responsibility for your consciousness, because your consciousness, that is your thoughts, your embodied feelings, your belief systems, the way in which you show up in life, the action you take, your consciousness is within your control. You have full power over it, and your consciousness is fueling the reality you experience. What I'm sharing with you today are 5 ways that you can start tending to your soul's growth, learning, expansion, and embodiment right now before getting to a crisis point. Before getting to a point where you feel so low and so hopeless you don't actually have the motivation to take action. And if you're in that space, these need to be applied right now. They will change your experience. I'm not just speaking from some whimsical, fanciful, ideological space. These are the things that I do every single day that have dragged me out of hell. I was someone that lived with 10 years of depression, anxiety, suicidal episodes. I was in a terrible state not all that long ago. If I can drag myself out of that space without antidepressants, without needing clinical intervention, by just applying these principles, I am sure every single person can, because I believe the power to change lies within us and it is not determined by some external condition. Your consciousness is your responsibility. It's also yours to harness for the reality you want to experience. So without further ado, let's dive into the 5 things you can do to start shifting your experience of reality right now. The first thing, intention. You may have heard this a lot. Live intentionally. Be intentional. Do you understand at a practical, embodied level what I mean by that? If not, let me explain in a bit more detail. Your intention is you taking that present moment experience and infusing it with your energy and awareness. You are channeling your consciousness in that moment when you set an intention to drive the process of creation and manifestation forwards. So when you set intentions, you are being clear and directive with how you want to use your energy. You can set intentions with everything. And if you really want to see the shifts quickly, I encourage you to start setting intentions with everything you do. There are a number of reasons for this. When we live intentionally, we start activating that inner child energy, that aspect of us that sees life as magical, as lots of potential, as expansive, as fun, as playful. That energy of expansion, playfulness, possibility is essential for effective manifestation. So you need to be connected to the childlike energy within you in order to start creating as a creator and the creation of your own consciousness, okay? So your intention is the rocket fuel that starts to move the energy of creation into manifestation. I am intentional now. With almost everything I do, I try and infuse intentionality. For example, it's an empty bottle of water, but just imagine there's water in this bottle. Before I drink, before I eat, I spend a few moments to intentionally pour love, magic. I imagine rainbow frequencies filling my drinks, infusing my food. And I set the intention that the food that I'm eating and the drinks that I'm drinking are full of nourishment, that they're going to bring my body vitality, aliveness, beautiful, vibrant health. Okay, it takes a couple of seconds before I drink. It takes a couple of seconds before I eat. Not only is it fun to start accessing my third eye more consciously, to start imagining, to start creating, to start playing with energy, it's also very powerful. Why? Well, not only are you potentially starting to create a different vibrational experience with the food you're eating, your food is going to change vibrationally when you meet it with love. You are also changing your embodied state, your cells, your body's ability to regenerate, your body in general responds to your consciousness. So just by accessing an intentional, uplifted state with regards to the things around you, you're already starting to prime your system for positivity, upliftment, for a higher vibrational experience than just choosing to cycle in unconsciousness, negative thinking, self-limiting beliefs, etc. So you can be intentional with everything, okay? And I encourage you to play with this. I encourage you to infuse intentionality with everything you do. So for example, I took a bath the other day, and when I was preparing that bath, I spent a few moments to send energy and healing to the water, and I set the intention that that bath water would be very purifying and cleansing for me at every level of my being, would help dissolve any cords attached to my body, to my energy body, would help to relax my body deeply in preparation for a really solid sleep. And I literally allowed myself, when I was in that water, to imagine, see, sense, feel my body being renewed at the deepest level possible. You don't need to be an energy healer to do any of this. We're all energy healers. We're all healers. We all have access to the power of our own consciousness, to the power of imagination, which is where everything is created from anyway. So just harness your ability to create and imagine and play. You can be intentional with, as I said, your food, your drink, your shower. You can be intentional with every day when you step in the shower. Imagine yourself being bathed in purifying water. Set the intention that if you've had a long day at work, you're going to allow everything that's stuck to you, that's not yours, that's not in the highest good, to be washed away. When you go out in the car, set the intention to experience loving experiences on the road, people who are generous, where you give back on the road. When you meet a friend, set the intention to have a soulfully connective experience. Set the intention when you go to a class or a workshop, or you do something at work, set the intention for it to be of the highest good for all involved. I've just taught a yoga class, and before I went into that space, I was visualizing the experience I wanted. I want these people to get the most relaxation possible in a way that's safe for them during their working day. It's going to be fun for me to teach. They're going to find it nourishing. I set that intention before I taught the class. I had a great class. So your intention is so powerful, not just because it does help actually alter the vibrational state of your own being, but because this is a vibrational reality. When you start changing your vibrational state, guess what? Your experience, your 3D reality, your experience of the world of form starts changing too. Intention is so powerful. So I invite you, with everything you do, going to the loo, set the intention to release what you don't need. Interactions, food, drinks, sleep, everything. Set intentions and watch the magic unfold. Now this feeds off, this is what I like to call flipping the script. While we are in the process of reprogramming the subconscious mind and deconditioning from very old, habituated thought forms and belief systems, it does take time for us to choose what belief systems we want to install in our consciousness, okay? So the mind, if you like, is your tool in this life as a soul with access to limited possibilities to decide what is it that you want to experience in your reality. Your mind is your programming tool for this holographic reality. So your belief systems are ultimately what dictate what you're experiencing in your reality. Your belief systems are formed through many layers, right? And years and generations and lifetimes of conditioned thoughts, conditioned feelings, cycling. So how do we break that? we start flipping the script. Of course, you can do affirmations and subliminals and all of these things too, but you know what I found to be most effective? It's in the moment choosing different thoughts. So this does require you to be aware. This does require you to have some degree of being able to observe the mind. You need to be able to catch yourself when you're in habituated thinking and having thoughts or engaging in stories that don't serve where you want to go. So in those moments, you need to catch yourself, no judgment, notice when you're caught in a story, notice when you're cycling in, oh, it's always going to be this way, why does it always struggle, the weather's shit, whatever judgment that you're making that doesn't feel vibrant, that doesn't feel expansive, that doesn't energize you, flip the script. If it's raining outside and the mind wants to judge and say, why is it raining? It's so miserable. Flip the script. Thank you, rain, for nourishing the earth, for feeding the plants, and for also then, as a subsequent consequence, feeding me, because when the ground is healthy, when the earth is healthy, I can feed myself and I'm healthy, okay? So flipping the script just means taking a negative thought form, or perhaps a thought form, a way of thinking that doesn't feel expansive for you, and changing it to something that does. This is a moment to moment practice. If, like me, you've had a shitload of like cup half empty, pessimistic, depleting thoughts circulating in your consciousness, especially if you're like someone like me who had a lot of mental health issues in the past, this is going to be so critical in your experience of your life. It is moment to moment reprogramming. The reason it's so effective is not only are you consciously catching a negative thought form or a negative belief system and no longer feeding it with your awareness, when you start to reframe to things that do feel expansive, when you start to flip the script in the moment and you catch yourself in those cycles of negative thinking, of negative self-talk, of stories that don't serve, when you flip the script, it has a direct impact on your state of embodiment. It feels uplifting to think positive thoughts. It feels uplifting to choose to see the good instead of the bad. It feels uplifting to be in a state of hope, gratitude, expansion, excitement, curiosity over choosing to be in the same mundane stories over and over and over again. If we want to experience novelty, new miracles, we've got to move away from those conditioned, habituated ways of thinking and being, right? Albert Einstein famously said, you can't solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created the problem. You want to experience a different reality? Change the way that you speak to yourself. Change the thoughts you think, and do it in each and every moment. So perhaps you can choose one day this week where you are making that your task, that you're going to spend a day being vigilant of your thoughts and choosing to actively reframe whatever thoughts come in that don't feel expansive, and just notice how that shifts your mood, your state of experiencing reality throughout your day. The last thing I want to add to this point, which is kind of a marriage of the intentionality point of number one and the reframing of number two, is just noticing your language in general. This is something, you know, I studied English language. I have a lot of passion for language. I have a lot of experience understanding, studying language at different levels, but it's only been recently that I've really started to understand the impact vibrationally, energetically of the words we speak. There's a reason why it's called spelling, right? Words are spells. What world, what reality are you weaving with the words you speak? Okay, so just as with the reframe, noticing negative thought patterns, cycles, etc., just notice the way that you speak, the words you use, the phrases, the idioms that may have been long kind of held in your consciousness, that are perpetuated culturally, that people say without even thinking, right? I've got a broken heart. When we say words like that, if you think about the personification of that, I've got a broken heart, what signals are we sending to the body? Right? I've got a splitting head. Idioms are so fascinating in the way that they formed, and it makes me think now how much of this matrix reality has been programmed with language that doesn't serve expansion and health. So when I say about being vigilant of the language you're using, notice your language choices throughout your day. Notice, would an empowered person say those words? Would a person who's connected to God, to faith, to trust, to abundance say those words? Or is that something rooted in victimhood, disempowerment, fear? What reality do you want to experience? Start choosing your words accordingly. The third thing you can do to start changing your experience of reality right now is connecting to heart energy. Your heart is a portal. Your heart has such a powerful electromagnetic field around it. What do you think happens when you live life with an open heart? What do you think happens when you live life with a heart that is magnetic and radiating joy, love, gratitude? Yeah, you bring those things closer to you in your form world. Your heart truly is a center, a chamber of alchemy. The heart feels lots of different feelings, right? But underpinning all of the different feelings that we experience as humans, what the heart is held in is unconditional love. That is, to me, the portal to the singularity, the unified field, to God. That state of unconditional love, to me, is our natural state of being before the conditioning, before the human binaries and duality set in. So connecting to heart energy is connecting to all possibility. Connecting to heart energy is connecting to abundance, because once you start connecting to the heart, once you start connecting to love in that deeper way beyond conditional love, you start recognizing that abundance, wealth, prosperity takes many forms. We've been conditioned to think that abundance is material, wealth is material, prosperity is material. When you're connected to an open heart, you will feel abundant. Your reality will start shifting accordingly. Trust me. So the ways in which we connect to heart energy, simple practices like having gratitude. Now, we hear this a lot. Be grateful. It helps to open the heart. It helps to get you into a kind of joyful state. I've noticed that a lot of people really struggle with this. They struggle to connect to gratitude energy. And so I'm just going to offer you a suggestion or a reflection. A nice place to start with gratitude to generate that feeling is the body. There's so much about the body that we take for granted. If we have our sight, we take that for granted. If we have all of our limbs intact and usable, we take that for granted most of the time. We move through our reality and we don't even think about the fact that we have the ability to create, to walk, to run, to dance, to hold, to be intimate, to connect, to be able to experience our sensual reality in a rich way. What I like to do when I'm feeling really out of touch with gratitude and heart energy is I'll do a body scan from the bottom of my body, through my toes, my feet, all the way up to the crown, and I will say I love you, thank you to each part, with that sense of if that part was taken away or if I didn't have access to that part, how would it feel? I would feel devastated if I didn't have my sight. I love looking at this beautiful world. I love music. I would feel so sad if I didn't have my hearing anymore, and my hearing isn't great, but if I didn't have any hearing at all, that would have such an impact on my material reality, my experience of this material reality. If I didn't have hands, how on earth would I do all the things that I love and enjoy? So take a moment, start with the body, start with a body scan, say thank you and I love you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you give me. Because when you say thank you for what you give me, you start to focus on actually what you get from that experience. What do you get from your feet? What do you get from your knees? What do you get from your hands? What do you get from having a brain, functioning eyes and ears and a mouth and teeth, right? You start to recognize like, wow, there's loads more in my reality that I have that I don't always appreciate. We always have things to be grateful for, but we are often to some degree desensitized to the things that we do already have. And unfortunately, we seem to live in a reactive reality or a reactive paradigm, which only appreciates what's not there once it's been lost. What if we start living from the space of being grateful for what we have every single day? It's incredible what happens when you live from that space. You feel uplifted. You start to open this natural flow of abundance of giving and receiving from the heart, because the heart opens, and you will start to feel such a notable shift in your vibration. So connecting to heart energy, gratitude, giving in ways that feel truly nourishing, not from a place of obligation, right? I should give because, you know, I don't give to charity, so I should do this thing. Not from obligation. That's a fear-based frequency. Giving because it feels damn good to share love in this world. I went and did a litter pick a couple of weeks ago in my local nature park that's just a couple of minutes away from my parents' house. I loved it so much, connecting more mindfully with the earth, seeing that there were certain areas of the park that I picked up litter that the animals weren't going to be exposed to the crap that had been put there. That lifted my heart and it made me want to do it again, and I'm going to try and set up a litter pick for my birthday. So living in this state of how can I give, knowing that when you give you receive, because that's the natural law of the universe. Giving and receiving is one of the natural laws. It is one of the ways in which universal balance is restored and established, and we live very, very, very out of balance with this natural law. I've realized that within myself. Most of us are very used to giving. If we are giving, right, and we're not allowing ourselves to receive, how do we expect to be in a sustainable place where we can show up for the people in our lives, where we can be expansive and full of energy? So receiving is also a beautiful way of connecting with heart energy. When we receive, we allow ourselves to be in that state of surrender and more feminine energy. This is part of the balance, right? It's making sure that we're not neglecting either pole of our consciousness, masculine or feminine. So actually allowing yourself to receive an offer. If someone makes an offer to you, hi, I'd like to meet you for coffee on this day. Hi, do you need a hand with moving? Do you need any help preparing the food? Notice the tendency to want to shut down help. Notice the tendency in the habituated pattern to want to shut off the flow of receivership. I encourage you to start saying yes to receiving. This also really helps with this flow of energy, of this beautiful current that runs through the heart center, to open the heart and start magnetizing more love and more expansion, more abundance into your reality. The fourth thing is presence. Now, I've spoken about presence on my channel before, but it's so important that I want to reiterate it and stress it again here. Your ability to be present right now, that is not being anchored in a thought form or an emotional experience from the past, and not investing in a future that hasn't even happened yet. Your ability to be present is where your empowerment comes. Your ability to choose and create the timeline of your choice exists from this now moment. This is where you're creating from. Your thoughts, your feelings, your vibrational state, your actions that you take right now are determining what timeline you weave for yourself. So having access and awareness of the present moment is where you create from consciously. If you are in your mind all the time, if you're running on autopilot, if you are still very heavily conditioned by past programming and you're living from that, what do you think you're going to continue to generate in your experience? More of the same. We need to pattern interrupt these old programs that have been installed in our consciousness. They run deep, they are insidious. We interrupt them by returning to the present moment, by interrupting the momentum of the mind. I will link a video somewhere here with regards to presence if you're interested in learning a bit more. I made a video about that recently. But your ability to be present not only allows you to observe the mind, which is really important for that flipping the script element that I mentioned and being aware of the words you're speaking, but it's also your container. Your presence is your container for life. Everything you want to experience happens right now. It allows you to become empowered in the present moment. You are no longer being mastered by the mind. You are becoming the master. The mind becomes the humble servant of soul consciousness and not the other way around. And then you get to decide, what do you want to experience? Not just externally, right? Of course, we would like to manifest a certain reality for ourselves. We all have desires. We all have goals. How do you want to feel living your life? You get to choose that in the present moment. You get to make different choices. And that's going to lead me really nicely on to point number 5, which I think may trigger some people, and I don't care because it's truth. Point number 5, taking radical self-responsibility for your reality. I'm going to make an entire video about how this completely liberated me from anything that I would call a mental health issue, which to me is just an unconscious state of being. Radical self-responsibility has been probably the most profound thing to change my life. It hasn't been plant medicine, it hasn't been a guru, it hasn't been someone else doing something to me, it hasn't been Reiki, it hasn't been some external condition. Taking responsibility for my consciousness has shifted my entire world. My relationships have changed, my work has changed, my experience of life has changed. I used to be volatile, burned out, overwhelmed, unable to do anything consistently, constantly in cycles of victimhood and disempowerment, a complete mess. Good heart, lots of potential, I see all of that, but I was a total mess. I was a mess in my relationships, I was volatile, I was angry, I was moody, I was so disempowered in so many ways. I was so hopeless. I lived in resignation for so long, thinking that I would always spend my life depressed, and for the times when I really didn't want to do that and I thought about ending my life, I was so burdened by this sense of defeat. The thing that changed my experience was radical self-responsibility, choosing in each moment a different experience for myself. From the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, I choose differently. When you're someone who lives with depression, as if you are experiencing depression you'll know, you tend to wake up and you already wake up with the sense that the day's going to be shit, that nothing's going to be changing, that you're feeling hopeless, that you don't have anything to live for, that you don't have any motivation, that you feel hollow. I will make a whole separate video on depression because that is in a really untapped realm that the mainstream, I think, is dealing with very poorly. But when you're in that space, if you wake up in that state, which I did nearly every day for at least 5 years, what do you think you're going to start experiencing in that day? When you live from that state where you've already decided your day is going to be a pile of shit, what do you think you're going to experience? This is, again, major pattern interruption. There is going to be a part of your ego structure that is attached to being a victim. No one wants to hear this. No one likes to believe that they are creating their reality. We live in an epidemic of victimhood. We are attached as a collective to being victims. It's actually being celebrated now. I'm seeing this emerging on all these different platforms that I'm not a part of, like TikTok, and all of the kind of woke shit that's being spewed out of mainstream media, because it keeps us in disempowerment. The mainstream, the matrix, continues to idolize victim consciousness. Blame someone outside of you. It's their fault. It's that group's fault. It's that system's fault. It's the elite's fault. It's their fault. It's that political party's fault. Shirking blame. Always outsourcing power to someone else. Your reality changes when you recognize that 100% of the power lies with you, and that your power cannot ever be taken from you. Your divine power, right? Your ability to know yourself, to know your worth, to know your divinity, to know that you are an expression of the One, that you are an expression of God, that can never be taken from you. That's untouchable. Your true essence is untouchable. When you finally decide to stop outsourcing your power to anything or anyone outside of you, your life will shift. There's no way it can't. But this is a huge process to go through, because we are clearing not just decades, not just generations, not just lifetimes, millennia of conditioning around victimhood and around hierarchy, around some people being fixers or saviors and some people being victims, people being perpetrators and some people being victims. Sometimes those roles switch in our lives, but we are stuck as a society in this firmament of victimhood. Unfortunately, the growing pains that humanity will have to go through, and is currently going through, is that we have to move beyond that state of consciousness if we want to access who we truly are and embody it, and embody that power, embody that potential, embody that level of growth. If we want to see a different reality, we literally have to choose a different reality for ourselves. To me, the most essential way that we do that is by taking responsibility for ourselves. Now, at a soul level, your soul came to this third dimensional reality to experience life and to grow through duality. We know that on this earth plane there are a myriad of experiences. Some feel joyous, expansive, some feel very much the opposite, some can feel very inhumane, some can feel very cruel, some can feel completely unjustified, some can elicit, a lot of grief, a lot of pain. At the soul level, the experiences you have here on earth fuel and catalyze growth. For most of the time up until now, humanity has needed suffering as a catalyst for growth and change. How many people do you know have made radical shifts in their experience when they've been comfortable? It doesn't really work that way, especially when we're still living from a lot of fear consciousness. We tend to need to feel very uncomfortable and in a lot of suffering before we choose to expand and grow beyond our conditioning. And prior to incarnating, the soul orchestrates certain experiences that we're going to have to wake us up, to help us become awake within this dream, to help us recognize that we've been unconscious and to choose differently, to help us come into more radical self-love, self-union, self-responsibility, to understand the innate power of our consciousness beyond all of the paradigms that we've been sold here on earth in the matrix. We have come to wake up beyond all of that. Sometimes we need very deep initiations. This is not about victim blaming. It's not about victim shaming. I'm certain that every single person on this planet at some point was victimized. We choose if we live as victims. I'm saying this as someone that has been through a lot of experiences myself. No person or child deserves bad experiences. When the soul chooses these experiences, it's not about worth or deservability. We have to see beyond this mundane level of reality to understand that on the soul's journey, this incarnation is a blip on the radar. Every experience we're having is an opportunity to catalyze growth, to move from karmic blueprints and karmic pathways towards dharma, destiny, soul embodiment, soul expansion, the expression of our potential in form. This is a journey that is beyond the mind's conception. So the invitation with this is to start asking what your world is mirroring back to you as a lesson to learn. What about your experience, especially if there's challenge, dissonance, some sense of disruption, some sense of unease within yourself or in your reality? What is it showing you? The best way to understand what it's showing you is to look at what it's triggering within you. What's it bringing up? If you've been through a breakup or someone's ended a relationship with you and you start feeling that sense of anger or rejection or abandonment, it's showing you that there are still aspects of your consciousness, probably inner child aspect, that need to be integrated, that still feel on some level a rejection or an abandonment that may have happened or perceived to have happened earlier on in your experience. If you lose a job or you're made redundant, you could view that as someone robbing you of your security and safety. Or you could consider that perhaps you've been in that job for 10 years, you didn't enjoy it, it was a grind, you didn't like going there every day. Your soul has delivered you a way out. Can you again flip the script and start asking, what's the deeper learning here? If I was to look beyond this mundane level of reality at how the stage is set, what are like the themes running through this? What are the emotions that it's bringing up? What stories does this experience kick up for me? What am I being given the opportunity to see that I wasn't seeing before? So we use the physical reality as souls to experience and start clearing out the subconscious. And the way that we do that is by actually generating experiences in our physical reality from our consciousness that mirror back the subconscious so that we can become consciously aware of it. So in that sense, I believe very deeply that this is a self-generated holographic reality, that your world is a mirror for your consciousness. What's that mirror showing you? If there's anger present, dig deeper. What are the roots of that anger? Who is that anger really directed towards? So often we get lost at just the first layer. There's something happening in our 3D reality and it's reactive, cause and effect. Well, that person did that and this is why I feel this way. Go deeper. Okay, this person has triggered me. This experience has happened. I had this car accident. I had this, I had that. What is the opportunity here for me to see? What was I not seeing before this experience that this has illuminated for me? And you can do this with situations that feel good, expansive, or bad or unpleasant in some capacity for you. My invitation here is to start zooming out and seeing what the soul orchestration is in your reality. What is your soul nudging you towards that perhaps, unless you were forced or coerced, you wouldn't step towards because there's a lot of fear there, or there's a lot of conditioning, or there's a lot of complacency. What is your soul giving you the opportunity to do that you wouldn't have done otherwise? What's the soul gold? That's a really good question to ask. What's the soul gold in this? What can I mine from this? Not only does that help you take responsibility for your consciousness, right? You can't change another person, how they think, how they act, how they behave. That's their responsibility. You can choose your response. You can change your response. That's where your power lies, in your ability to choose, your ability to change. That's why we take radical self-responsibility. And when we do that, our reality and experience of reality radically starts to shift because we no longer believe we're powerless, helpless victims. We start seeing that everything is an opportunity. To me, that is the spiritual path, that this earth school, this 3D reality is an initiation for the soul. If you're working at that level of reality, if you also feel aligned with that way of thinking, what is this current experience of your reality initiating you into? How are you being nudged, pushed, forced to grow, to learn, to expand beyond your comfortable limits. I really encourage you to watch the video that I'm going to link here. It's happening for you, not to you, to really cement this point. So those are my 5 tips on how you can start changing your experience of reality right now. I guarantee that if you implement these things that I've shared in the video today, at least one of these things, you're going to start seeing shifts quickly. If you want to go all in, start applying all 5 right now. The power to create and change your reality lies with you. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. You have that power. You have that capacity to create change. If you do need more support, I offer one-to-one sessions. You can find out more about that on my website. I'm also co-hosting a powerful transformative women's only retreat in September in Morocco. I believe we only have 2 spaces left, so if that's an experience that calls to you, I invite you to book a discovery call with me to see if it resonates. Otherwise, I'd love to hear your thoughts, feelings, feedback, maybe ways in which you're going to start making changes right now. And I look forward to connecting with you again really soon.